Well, it's all good, man. We'll just pick up right from here. Yeah, it was just, I don't know how much you heard of that, but I really do appreciate like you guys just totally lowering down all the stress.
Yeah, coming into that place of familiarity of just like, different brother, but a brother of the same cloth, and so being part of the team with Jay Napier and his family over in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or right outside of Tulsa, Sperry, Oklahoma, over there at the Rising Ridge. It'll be almost about, I think, 2 years now working with over there, and I honestly can't highly recommend it enough to other veterans that feel that it's something that they're ready for. Um, because something you saw that weekend is no one is here to push you into anything that you're not prepared or that you feel that you're ready to do this, and so um I honor each and every one of you for showing up, and it was really great meeting you that evening, just getting to connect, learning a bit about you, and like your history with what you're doing as a peer support specialist. I think it's really great that there's veterans being on that side, in that side of the VA world, where they're able to support other people just like themselves, and like likewise in the same energy, like being in this space, right? The healing space, the health and wellness space of working and facilitating as not just being like, your average Joe, but another warrior like yourself here, And I walk with that path with a lot of reverence and honor to be here because like the same idea about when people go into combat, like, you know, do I really feel comfortable with this person to my left and to my right to go with what's gonna be ahead of us in this evening, if you will, And so hoping for the best but preparing for the worst, right? And
Yeah.
we got to share a lot of good stories, and it was just really comfortable. And I can't tell you how much it makes my heart happy. I've been doing this work for a while, not just in the veteran space, but just, the space of healing for everybody else. But there's a special place in my heart, not just because I'm a Marine, but because, like, as a warrior, to be here to hold these sacred spaces for individuals to just have that sacred reflection. Because a lot of the time, like, and we touch base on this, Don Miguel Ruiz in the book and the Four Agreements, to witness the true self, it's like looking in a foggy mirror. And when we rub that mirror, we can finally see the eyes of true self.
Hmm. It's beautiful, man. Beautiful. You mentioned that you were a Marine and actually your brother's the same cloth. I fucking love it, man. And what got you into all this? Got you into that space? What got you into healing? What got you into the journey that you're in? And just getting to know you for pretty much like about 4 days ish. And you just have such a calm spirit. And when you shared a little bit of your background, it came from a little bit of a rough area. But
Yeah.
how did you transform from being like real, like, how would I say, a rough and tough warrior to being a wounded healer?
I guess coming to the point of accepting that I'm not I'm not the big bad tough guy that I think I am, and realizing that yeah, I think the first step of understanding why we're suffering is accepting that everything that happened to us, that was the good, the bad, it was all part of the journey. It didn't happen uh how they say, it didn't happen for you, it happened to you, or didn't happen to
Mm,
you, it happened for you, one of those ways. But the idea is that, like, the good, the bad, the highs and the lows, the way I like to look at it now is there is no good and bad. There's highs and there's lows, like waves, and sometimes those waves go fast and sometimes we can slow those waves down.
mm,
And I think it was a matter of between sustaining my hip injury in Afghanistan was at the beginning of it. Um, that story that I was telling you about, November 9th, 2011. I'll never forget it. The next day is the Marine Corps birthday. The next day is my mother's birthday. On that day, I met Creator, Great Spirit, whatever name you want to name the energetic force let's call it the Force. A lot of Star Wars fans out there. I met the Force. I understood what the Force was that day. I understood that there is this greater thing beyond me that is seen and unseen. And on that day, I became a big believer of having faith in God, in creation, in Creator, in that energy that is the life that's all through all things. Um, my mom kind of always rings in my ears when I think about that day because although we grew up Catholic, she always told me, you know, I was a handful of a child, young wild Aries. She always says I'm the reason why she got gray hairs. But she always said to me, you know what, Hamilton, one day you're gonna learn who God is at the worst time. Usted aprende
Mm.
quién es Dios a lo malo. Translation is you're gonna learn God at the worst or baddest times. And let's just say that becoming a earthworm or a flatworm on the day on that battlefield, my back against the ground, 18 inches of berm covering my head and looking straight to the heavens on that day, I remember my mom's words of like, I prayed to something that was greater than me. And I remember saying that, like, I'm going to die. And if I'm going to die, today's the day. And I remember feeling this presence of like my grandmother's energy. She had passed, but I felt like this presence of like this motherly grandmother energy that was saying like today's not the day. And I would never forget that day. I carry it with me. I do have the chronic pain that's in my body that I carry with me, but it is a gentle reminder of I could have been dead that day. Any other thing that could have happened that day could have been the mistake that would have cost my life. And so I really accept that that day when the earth sucked my foot into the ground and didn't let go and my hip dislocated and I hit the ground, that wasn't a mistake. It was all in divine plan. Like this was part of the plan. Like I had to get hurt there to learn that, who is God? What is greater than life itself is this energy. And so I give thanks to my brothers who were there with me who, picked up the rate of fire, helped me get out of that death pit, if you will, or the kill zone. And that was a close call that day. And I kind of want to tap on this. One of my favorite moments from the retreat was doing that exercise that Jared had us do where we picked each other up, right?
Mm.
For me, it was very emotional in the way of like, oh my God, the last time I've been picked up like this was that time when you got pulled out of that firefight, and after you guys caught the Taliban, and Motor T came with the MRAPs with QRF, you couldn't walk back home. You were covered in mud, and your boys one had to walk back, and Motor T took me into the trucks. And they're like, "Oh my God, what happened?" They're asking me all these questions, and it's very hectic. But let's just say that it was great to be around brothers who were like, "How are you? How are you doing? What's happening? What happened to you?" And then when I got off that truck, and they brought us back into base on FOB Detroit or PB Detroit, there was like 20 something Marines and corpsmen outside of that truck, all helping me like literally just like that, getting out of that truck.
Mm.
Gear started popping off of me. They started popping off my flak jacket. They're taking my weapon, taking this, and like just one by one, all brought me into the BAS. And I never forget like that feeling of being carried by my brothers. And so like it makes me emotional now, even thinking like in that moment when we were being carried on that Saturday, I remember thinking I was like, what a blessing it is to be here in a space that's safe, being carried by with your brothers with love. The same love was there, but it was a love of like, I'm worried for you. Are you okay? Like, what happened? Oh my God. But this was a love of like, I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you're alive. I'm so happy you're present. I'm so happy you're doing what you're doing. And that's like what I got out of that weekend. Like, that was one of my favorite moments. And I won't forget that.
It's beautiful how you talked about how the feminine energy between your mother and your grandmother actually was self soothing. And
Yeah.
actually, not self soothing, but their spirit was soothing you. And then talking about the masculine energy, where you're able to trust these people that are stripping you. They're taking away the things that you use to protect you, to defend you.
Hmm.
And you're feeling safe amongst men. You're feeling safe even though that it's you just got out of a constant fight mode. Your limbic cortex is fucking overriding. It is just going nuts. And then you just were able to,
Yeah.
and you're talking about being carried. Like when I got out of that weekend, it was a lot of uncomfortable moments, breathing into it, trusting that people are going to be okay. From the tobacco snuff up the nose to the eye drops to the rhythmic breathing to the toad frog. It was just amazing. It was just so pure. It was like I'm here. I'm going to trust you guys. I'm going to trust you guys when I can't see. I'm going to trust you guys when I feel like I'm about to puke. I'm going to trust you guys when you're carrying me. Dude, I was like one of the biggest guys there and 240 pounds, and you guys were just moving me, and it felt amazing. And thinking about how having men touch you in a safe place. Remember the exercise where we were walking around where Jared
Mm.
was leading? When I stopped and I put my right hand on Sean's shoulder, I started crying. And I started to actually I allowed the tears to fall down the face instead of to pull away. And that atmosphere was definitely a safe place.
Yeah. I agree. The idea of like feeling safe, feeling in camaraderie in this sacred fire, the circle that we built. Um, there's just some ancient familiarity to this of like this is what warriors used to do. Not only did they go to combat and fight with each other and drink with each other and go do the things they had to do, but they would come back and share those things around the sacred circle. What came up for
Mm,
them, what they felt, and it gave them opportunity to like unload, discharge energetically what we just experienced, and then hold space together, breathe, and know that we
mm,
made it through. We're here together, and may we only get stronger and move forward with more love and more faith. And yeah, I think there's something that I came through the years of reading, of learning that like in ancient times, like warriors would go, they would come back, and then they would sit with the medicine men, you know, the
mm,
the 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 religious idol of the group, of their tribe or their organization or society, and sit for what they would say is almost 3 months of doing this deep work to realign the body, to realign their spirit, because they would say that there's these holes, there's these unseen wounds that are leaking and oozing, right? And like it would help them come back together after doing this work. And so like, in modern day, let's just say, in our 4 days of working together, some people leave that weekend saying like, I just felt like I did 10, almost 20 years of therapy, right?
mm.
And there's a deep reverence in doing this work because like there's a lot of people out there doing it, and I say this with tough love. Like, there's a lot of people out there doing it, and they'll take your money, and they're like, "Yeah, come on down. We'll give you an experience." But is it being facilitated with reverence? Is it holding space with love? Is it giving that energy that's like we're really here to support you, and not just like, hey, give us money. Um, and I think that's the value behind the quality and the fact, like looking at Jared's space, it's all quality, not quantity. Like what I love about Jared's space, it's not the place that's pumping out experiences week by week or month by month. Like there's these big gaps of spaces because like as for his family, they're recharging and they're
Mm.
discharging. Um, for myself as a facilitator, like I find myself in the medicine spaces maybe every 2 to 3 months. I know a lot of people being in there a lot, and I'm not saying that there's a right or wrong way to do it, but I think that properly integrating from every experience is a great opportunity to keep growing and learning. Because even for myself to hold space, like I'm learning more about myself as I learn from others, different perspectives, different point of views really help myself understand. Like I take a lot of love into hearing other fathers talk about how it's like being a dad and raising their daughter and what that's like. And I'm a young father. I'm still learning things. So I give thanks that like I take my time with my kid and I like to be there with her and I like to really pay attention and I give her the emotional space of like, what's wrong? Like what's coming up? How can we make things better? Um, do you want to breathe through it? Do you want to talk about it? And sometimes my kid would be like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm gonna breathe. I'm like, okay, let's breathe. Just breathe the pain away. You just fell off your bike and it really hurts. There's nothing else I could do for you. So like helping you breathe and holding you through that is the best thing I can do for you right now.
So you said a lot right there, and I wanted to get back to what you were saying about the warriors sitting with each other and actually healing. When I was thinking about that, there was multiple areas that my brain was going to. One was how many times did or have you? I know for me, I wanted to get back into the fight. It was the most highest addicting thing I have ever did up to that point, where it's like you
Mm,
just chasing a dragon. You want to get back into it. You want to actually get into it, and your body is enraged. It's inflamed. It is actually wanting more of this toxin. And sitting with other brothers that understand where you've been, you can metaphorically let your hair down. You allow yourself to be seen and heard, and it's not being judged. It's not trying to be optimized. It's not this whole Western philosophy of, hey, we need to just get after it. It's more of, hey, let's sit here. Let's sit here. Let's decompress. Because how many of us actually came back from the battlefield and we are leaking this ooze, what you said, the metaphoric ooze out onto everybody else that we love? And it's actually splattering and we're pushing people away. Our actions start to get into it. Like we start picking up negative behaviors.
mm.
And the people that we love, we start to push away because we're so worried about Mr. Hyde bleeding through that we keep plugging up those metaphoric holes of ooze that is just taking over our life. But when you were sharing that, the other parts of going forward and how some people get into the medicine real quick and you do it 3 months. And I'm a big believer on even the therapy, regular therapy. You go in there, you get your ass kicked, you work hard. You don't stay in therapy the whole time. You have a chance. You try those behaviors out. You try those patterns. You try to see how new things are working so you have a chance to reflect instead of
Yeah.
just constantly using a person and then getting fatigued, mentally fatigued, instead of actually being able to work through it. And when you were talking about your daughter, that has such a inner smile to me. You're allowing your daughter to be in control of her body, her actions, her needs, and just showing up as a man, a protector, a father, and actually allowing the child to be able to grow into a strong, independent woman.
Yeah. And it's not perfect. There's some days where I'm like, why are you crying? It's okay to cry, but like, we're not gonna sit here and cry for 10 minutes about it. But I sometimes I reel it back and like, you know what? It's okay to cry. Take as long as you need. Um, and kids will put you in your place, man. Like they'll call you out, and they're great teachers. And I'm very grateful for my daughter, and there's this whole big round, what do you call the Ouroboros, right? The snake in its tail. There's a lot of connections to like where it started and to where I'm at now. And like as simple as like my daughter's name. Like my daughter's name is Scarlet Nova. Nova, new, the birth. Scarlet was the name of my saw when I was in Afghanistan, my M249. That was something that I really believed, flesh and bone and mind and spirit, that this is a piece of me, this cold, hard piece of metal, this steel.
Hmm.
You sleep with it, you take care of it. You take care of it, it takes care of you. And you know, here in the future now, I see myself really like amazed of like I can't believe I lived to see past 30. I can't believe I'm a father. And, there are challenges in there, but do I have the tools? Yeah, I have better tools than I've ever had. I'm not in the habit of drinking or abusing things that I used to. And if I was, I wouldn't be in a position to be having responsibility fully with my daughter. And so, you asked the question, where did it start for you? Where did it begin? Yeah, Afghanistan was that beginning of dislocating my hip, going through that experience. it was November. I got back around December. Um, Maybe 2 weeks bedside rest, which really meant extra post duty and getting back into the fight, limping and hobbling my way around Marja in 2011. But like from coming back from 2011 to 2012, once we came back to the Camp Lejeune, which was the day of New Year's Eve, for those next 2 years on my way out, I metaphorically dropped my pack. Like some Marines may understand, I dropped my pack. I got out of shape. I got fat. I got depressed. Um, Angel talked about that time with me in Japan. That really went over my head. I forgot about that time in Japan. I was a very wild person. Let's just say that my friends used to call me Hurricane Hammy. Uh, and it was just not a good night when I started getting rowdy. And when Angel reminded me about that time, he's like, yeah, man, I wouldn't be here physically if it was not watching you for the last 10 years. How you've become, what you do, the things you practice, what you preach, which really gave me a lot of love, of a brotherly reflection of like, thank you for letting me know I'm not crazy. I'm following a good path. I'm doing the good things. And which goes to say, like, he was one of the guys in the room that night in Japan when I got beat up by one of my roommates, and I started the fight. I had my nose broken. Angel was there to put it back to place. And he talks about, it's like, yeah, man, I knew the monster you used to be, and I didn't like being around you. But to see who you are now, like the love, like you completely changed as a person. And if Hammy can change, I can change too. And honestly, that allowed me to have, what's that word? Confirmation that like sooner or later my brothers are gonna hear me and they're gonna start showing up. I can't force them, but all we could do is lead by example, you know. And sooner or later, some of your friends are gonna come around like, "Hey, Will, hey, Ham, what have you been doing? You look great. You look happier. You aren't as intense as you used to be before. You walk with your chest open and not no more of this sad, I'm the victim, oh, woo is I, right? Or woo is me." And they have my one of my old corpsmen be there, allowed me to really understand that like the road, it's been 10 years, but there's still all this road ahead of me. I am no master. I am still learning. Like Michelangelo said, at like 70 something years old, I am still learning. So may we continue to keep learning and growing and addressing the certain things that we need to address in the right kind of spaces. And I guess I want to lead that into like what started pushing me to move towards there. My toxicity, the fighting. I got arrested in the Marine Corps 2 months before I got out. 2 weeks before I actually got out on 49-day extra leave. You know that extra leave you save up and you're trying to get out early. I would have got out early, but I got a DUI. That DUI taught me a big lesson. Kept me in for the next 2 months until I finally finished my what is it called? A 45-45? Like I literally was on
Hmm.
house arrest for those that amount of time. And I remember just feeling like man, if you don't address your drinking, if you don't address these things, like you're gonna just keep getting in trouble. And this to say, 2014 still wasn't enough for me. It was about another year or so after getting out the Marines that I really hit my all-time low, which some people call the dark night of the soul. And a year and a half after getting out the Marine Corps, October 2015, I was prescribed SSRIs, Ambien to go to sleep, Adderall to focus in school, methylcarbamol for my back, Seroquel and Risperdal. Those are those SSRIs, right? Um, on the side of also like excessive drinking and partying, the chemical makeup of my chemistry got jacked up, where it basically put me in this really weird place, man, where I basically ended up having a seizure. And throughout that whole time in that seizure, let's just say that the person I was with called the police. The police is showing up outside, and I can tell you that when I woke up from that seizure, it came back too. After having all this other mystical experience, and I'll spare the details on that, but just trying to move forward with like what brought me here is that like, I should have been dead. Like the guy who was there in the house with me that day partying and just doing the not good habits of things, checked my pulse. He said he was a lifeguard. He checked my pulse. He's like, you had no pulse. Your eyes rolled back. You stopped moving. Your breath stopped. You had no pulse. When I wake up and I go outside, there he is with 8 police officers and the EMT looking at so-called the guy who committed suicide, if you will. Because I was not in the right headspace, right? I went into a kind of place of like fighting. Then I tried to say like, oh, I'm gonna go jump off the balcony. And whatever little spirit I had left in me was like wanting to fight to not do that. And the gentleman tried to stop me, and like I started fighting him, and then I went into a seizure. And
Mm.
when all that thing happened, where he took my pulse and I went away and I came back, when I went out, the EMT was there, the police were there, and let's just say that they took me to the VA. I talked to psychiatrists, and they just said, "Hey, man, for your best thing right now, we're gonna send you to the hospital." And that was one of my old time lows in life because like I've been arrested for the DUI, but when I heard the shackles and the sheriffs walk in to the VA and outside the psychiatry door, they came and cuffed me from my hands to my ankles. And I remember walking out the VA feeling like a ravaged animal, like a rageful dog, but also embarrassed and sad. And like that to me was my old time low, man. And like to be on the other side of like going through all of that, some Marines may understand what this is like because I've had guys who talked about checking themselves in. Like I was in a 3-day psychosis, like I wasn't here. And I can tell you by the third day when everything wore off, the person who I kept throwing and being mean to was apparently not a nurse, it was my own mother. And so there again is my mom showing up in my life physically in a way that she was like, no one can handle him, but let me try to handle him. And when I finally came to, she's like, Ham, you got to do the right thing and you got to take care of yourself. So you should go to the inpatient. So I went. When I was there for those next 2 weeks, it was very painful. I followed the rules. I did everything I needed to do, but I could tell you that on my way out, I really, really was focused on making a huge difference in my life because if I continued on this path of destruction, I would end up like the 17 friends that I know who have taken their life. Um, Not just from my unit, but just all around people that I know that joined the service. And so a lot of the deaths of my friends really inspired me to like try to do better. Like here's the tools, seek the help, and you're willing to seek help. And so with the willingness to seek help comes the requirement of like learning. And so through that growth, I started expanding my knowledge. I started getting off the meds, and I started seeking meditation spaces and started to do yoga, getting into yoga. Um, a lot of my lifestyle growing up was like very Bruce Lee, samurai like. I did Taekwondo as a kid. I really appreciated MAP in the Marine Corps, and I went all the way to becoming a brown belt. And like, it just always kept coming back to like, if you're such a fucking warrior, like tap into that true warrior Jedi knight of like becoming a Shaolin monk. Like learn the stillness of self. Like you are the hurricane, but learn to become still. Learn to become calm. Learn to become in your presence. And so through the seeking of my own spirituality came all these things of like yoga, the breath work, the meditation. Sure, learning about crystals and Tai Chi, learning about cold exposures and how beneficial it is for you. But like the greatest thing that came through all that was how 2016, a year after that experience of my dark night of the soul, I went to my first ayahuasca ceremony, October 1st, 2016. And that for me is what changed the pivotal point in my whole entire life. I let go of the addictions of smoking cigarette. The idea of alcohol the following weekend made me sick to my stomach. Like the smell of it just like made me sick. The thought of tequila or anything made me sick. I let go of cigarettes. So I stopped the addiction of cigarettes. I stopped the addiction of drinking. Um, I stopped the ideology, the suicidal ideologies, right? The thinking I'll be better if I've just gone. After that
Mm.
weekend of sitting with ayahuasca, it took me like a wet napkin, dude, and like slapped me on the ground. And it was like, you see, you're not big and tough like you think you are, but if you keep on this angry, destructive path, rageful and hateful, and holding this grief, it's gonna poison you. And like the spirit, the motherly spirit of ayahuasca, as people call it, grandmother, really showed me the self-worth that I had, and that the fact that is like, I deserve love, I deserve peace, I deserve to purify my body, mind, and spirit to live a better life. And it just kind of pushed me into that, you know. And so I'll wrap it in with this: that after that one session, it still showed me like, you don't know shit about meditating. You don't know shit about breathing. You don't know shit about yoga. So how about you learn the system of the body through yoga? And that is my biggest medicine, was finding yoga, becoming a yoga teacher a year later, and been teaching yoga ever since 2017. And that is the first thing I'll tell people is like, before you get into any wild stuff with with breath with plant medicines, like check out yoga, check out breath work, and check out sound baths and things like that, and see what opens up for you there, see what comes through that. So
Well, Hurricane, man, it's sounded like you were a young guy that had a bunch of emotions that were all riled up and they were actually bleeding through, but you didn't know how to identify them. And what you did was what Marine Corps culture is about, is actually to drink them away or to do violence or to be able to have a rage type of expression or try to null the emotions.
yeah.
Like quite a bit of the Marines that I know, and also even veterans, and even guys in general. Like we don't talk about our emotions. We don't usually identify them. We usually is happy or angry, and angry is usually a cumbersome of everything. And we
Hmm.
don't usually actually talk about the chance to be able to express that sorrow, that grief. Dude, you almost fucking died. You actually were pretty much pinned down, and if you moved the wrong way, one of those wizards would have actually split your skull open. And so much fear right there, so much scared, so much loss, not being able to defend yourself. Going back to the spirits of your mother and your grandmother soothing you when you said you got in trouble for drinking. Well, it sounded like you were just hurt. You sound like a dude that was just, hey, you know what? I'm all alone. Even though I have my boys, I'm still fucking alone. And I have no one else there. And even though they understand it, it's kind of actually weird to say, like, hey, dude, I was scared that day. I was lost that day. I
Yeah.
was hurting that day. And there's been nothing. Go ahead.
Like it reminds me that like I only probably had a few conversations, like like real heart to heart conversations, because like my peers, it was a lot of like, oh man, you went through the shit. And I've had even had a few people like even made fun of me, like, oh, you busted your ass and you fucked your hip up. And it's like, motherfucker, I almost died that day. Like, do you want to go over there and do that shit that I literally did? Like, you know. And so like I learned to like push all those things away, but I did have like these real heart to heart conversations with some of my bro like seniors that allowed me to understand, like, bro, like you did your fucking job. And like you still didn't even quit. Like I heard what you did that day. I heard that you still got back into the fight after you went through that and you ate shit, so to speak. And you once you got back into the fight, you cleared your gun out. You changed that. You changed you changed the belt, and you put a new belt on, and you got back into the fight. You were limping. You did exactly what a warrior would keep doing. You never cowered. You never ran away, and you did what you needed to do. But like it wasn't until our party got out, right? 2 years later, 2014, that I actually talked to a no shit therapist or a psych on my way out. And they on my way out, I talked to the dude for an hour. I cry about some shit, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm fucking crying in front of this man. And he allows me to realize, excuse me, he's like, yeah, man, you got trauma. And like I got out the Marine Corps with 50% disability. Where I'm at now, I got 100%, because obviously PTSD is still there in certain ways and aspect, especially the physical stuff. But like, it wasn't until talking to a professional that allowed me to understand, like, what you went through was fucking valid. The feelings you have are valid. The fact that you were scared and you keep dreaming about that day and your brain does like these what ifs, it's completely fucking natural. It sucks that you went through that. And like I guess that's what I needed for people to remind me is like that fucking sucks that you went through that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
get it. We all signed our fucking contract. We all went over there. We all know what we're getting ourselves into. But like at the end of the day, like there has to be a bit of like humanity. Like we're still humans. Like most of us were over there not even old enough to fucking buy a fucking beer.
So that goes into the next part. Like when you were a kid, did you have a place that they taught you, hey, this is okay to talk about these emotions? Was it actually okay in the Marine Corps? Because I know from us it wasn't. It was okay to drink. It was okay to be angry. It was
Sure.
okay to do all this other shit. It's great, but at the same time, it was kind of shitty, man. And I think about this because when you were going through your story, I told you and I shared this with you and I shared it with people before. I had to check myself into the psych ward because I almost ended my life and giving up my clothes, giving up my wallet, giving up all my possessions, and having to be behind two sealed doors that actually had to take a card
Yep.
that took 5 seconds each one, so that it wasn't just an easy swipe. It had to be pressed and waited. And how bad I was, it sounded like it was how bad you were. And it was just different phases. And it's like we're having these physical responses because our mind, our soul is fucking bleeding out there, trying to get out there and say, hey, help me, help me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, oh, are you going to judge me for this? You just talked about how some of your boys were like to judge you. And then actually finally being heard by a few people, you're even in your voice, it changed. It sounded like the confidence, it sounded like the love.
Yeah.
And obviously, your mother showed up for you again. Like, it's no shit. It's fucking scary when you got bullets going near you. It's fucking scary when you know your life is about to be over in a split second. It doesn't mean that it's hard to even fucking talk because
Yeah.
when you lose one of your boys, you lose one of your Marines, it's just all of a sudden it's like, am I fucking helpless? Now I'm injured. I'm physically injured. I can't get back in the fight. And I have to fucking do post duty when I just want to be next to my boys, make
Yeah.
sure that they're coming back.
Exactly.
People don't understand that. Where it's like, did I just betray my boys? And these are different emotions that are going on. So Hurricane Hammy, fuck, I could totally get him, man. It just makes sense. Getting locked up, I kind of call it like the door knocking. When the door is knocking, somebody is like they're trying to come in, and then it knocks a little bit louder, and then it knocks a little bit louder, and then it knocks a little bit louder. Like you getting breaking your nose was a gentle knock compared to the 45-45. That was a gentle knock until you were not breathing. And we might say like we don't realize it, but God or the spirits or energy, mana, Yela, Gaia, friggin' any of that stuff, it's saying that, hey, wake up, man. Wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the yoga and sound healing and sound baths and cold plunges. It's like, how many of us are asleep almost our whole life when we're just going through the motions? We're not expressing ourselves, not actually really being seen, not actually allowing our mask to be off.
Yeah. Coming into like our true self, and that's like I feel like what has come through the medicines and stuff and like I can tell you that from after the time of being in the Marine Corps, there was always that sadness and like us and like finding through the liquor, the drinking, the smoking. And like I remember there's times like I would be standing out in the rain, just like not feeling happy, just feeling like sad. Like, damn God, like why can't you just flood the world and just drown me here, this and that? Like these are the kind of things I used to think, and like I would stand literally looking at Camp Lejeune's uh what is that? New River? Like that's the name of
Hmm.
the river, right? I remember looking at that river thinking sometimes like on a cold night that it's raining, it's like drunk. I was like, I should just throw myself in that river. Like this place would be better without me, you know? I won't
Hmm.
cause the pain and make my family feel this or feel that. But I realized at the end of the day, and this is why I always go back to my friends as the teachers, like the first teacher I ever had really was Gregory Anthony Postiglione. He was in 1-9, and he was the first guy that when we came back from Afghanistan was the first experience of losing the guy to suicide. I didn't have to experience what my seniors experienced in 3-6 in the push in March in 2010. I went to March in 2011, and I saw the pain in my brother's eyes come into these memorial spaces where the thing happened, and I saw that pain. That fucking hurt witnessing these grown ass badass motherfuckers cry. I was like, that's the first time I ever seen these dudes cry. And then they wipe that shit off, and then they just keep it moving in the in the patrol. I'm like, those are some hard ass motherfuckers. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know that pain. I know the pain of almost dying, sure, but like the pain of coming back and living with what we're carrying and witnessing brothers literally destroy themselves. And like, I don't, this might piss some people off, but like, I don't know what's worse, watching someone die in combat or watching slowly your friend disintegrate their spirit and their soul in front of you. And it's like, I'm not going to sit here and say which one is worse. It's not the Olympic games of pain, but like having Gregory leave for the first time and being at that funeral really was an impact of like, fuck, who's going to be next? Is that feeling of like, who's going to, when are we going to wake up and have that phone call 4 or 5 times in the middle of the night from some unknown number you don't know? And when you call back, it's a familiar voice telling you, hey, so and so just took their life. And like, I can tell you from 2011, she was 2012 when that happened to where I'm at now, it continues to happen, man. Last year, I lost our battalion commander, um, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Schmidt, 53, 55 years old, an example of like the 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 depression, the sadness, the wounds don't discriminate age, race, sex. Don't discriminate where you come from, what's your religion. And the thing is, that bottom of the barrel, the bottom of that bottle is really the destruction of ourselves, man. And really like reframing the idea that like, hey, alcohol isn't the best choice for us. It's already a depressant. And if you're already on medications from the VA, you're just throwing gas onto the fire, man. And I just bring this up not to because it's a sad sad woohoo moment for us, but it's an example that like only the dead have seen the end of war. That's a saying from Plato, like whether they died in combat or they died back here, like they're the only ones who've seen the end of war. And we may still be battling certain battles, but me and you, we're not going to lose that anymore. We have the tools, we have the reinforcements, we know who to call, we know where to go to, and where we know where we need to go to unload and refill our cup with love.
Yes.
Because even while we're working in our lives, working with our families, working with our children, working in our jobs, we're going to be giving so much to other people. But there has to come
Hmm.
that time to do a retreat. And I think you touched on that word. It was like, I thought coming to retreat was like, me giving up and me doing, I think that was you. Somebody brought up the word retreat that weekend and what it meant like to retreat. No, we're not running away from anything. We are coming to a place of sovereignty to face it, to really have the moment to really face it. And like, no shit, stand shoulder to shoulders next to other giants who are willing to face it with you.
Dude, when you talk about retreat, I think about what we were doing was actually taking some shelter. We were taking some me time. It was actually taking some time to be able to deflect, not deflect, but to reflect, to be able
Reflect,
to
yeah.
process, to be able to understand what happened. Going back, circling back to what you said before about the ancient warriors taking 3 months to be able to reflect on it. The war, how it actually is eating at us. But then what we're also having a chance to is reflecting on our actions about the things that we were not able to maintain and control. You talk about the suicide. This is the reason I'm starting this. This is one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast. The reason I'm actually focusing on men's mental health is because 80% of the suicides, completions, come from men.
Mm,
75% of the attempts come from females, but 80%. It's a huge fucking number. You talk about, you brought up, actually, I don't say you talked about, but you brought up about alcohol or substances. I shared with you guys on Tuesdays, 2 days ago, on last Wednesday, the Wednesday before, I had a buddy, he OD'd. And I don't mean to like drag him through the mud, so I'm not going to actually use his name, but watched him for months, years, slowly decline, degrade, where we couldn't be able to penetrate. And ultimately, it's his choice of what he chose. And I feel so bad. My heart goes out to him. But I'm glad that he's able to finally have peace. The the way I'm looking at having people share their stories, the warriors, share their stories about the hardships, share their stories about the struggles. Maybe we can catch them a little bit early. Maybe we can be able to agitate enough out of them that they're willing to actually have a chance to be asking for help.
yeah.
I released my 13th episode on Tuesday, 2 days ago. This is probably going to be my 17th episode I'm releasing. And when I think about this, I gave up my lunch or I give up my nights listening to people and talking with them and having them be heard because you can go to a therapist and sometimes you don't feel like you're being heard. You feel like you're being analyzed.
Yeah.
And it's different, or because you're like, oh, this guy doesn't have the same type of education background. But I listen because I care. And everything that you said in your story, man, it was beautiful. Talked about the warriors crying and then pushing on. I had a buddy that was on here. I talked about the second battle of Fallujah. He kicked in doors, kept moving. Some people got killed, come back. Next day, at it again, at it again, at it again. Lose some people, at it again. And at the time when we were in with war, it was not a time that we could be able to sit and stop and mourn and process.
Hmm.
It was a time that we just said, hey, let's put it in. We're going to get these bastards. We're going to get it. And we went to control, and the control was the anger source. It was the fuel source. It was a way that we were able to get what we wanted to accomplish. The other thing that I know I was thinking was, I didn't want to lose any more people. I didn't want to lose any more people. And the thing about war, the thing about our emotions, the things about our grief, the thing about our survivor guilt or moral injury, some of these things are so hard to be able to articulate because I was saying we as a huge whole, don't usually talk about our emotions in a very effective way. Like, dude, I was thinking about the day, April 8th of 2006, when I lost one of my Marines. And I was thinking about how we were passing up magazines to one of my gunners while we were actually driving. And we were actually in a convoy and we were just pushing, 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 trying to get to the SSTP. How much rage was in everybody, what the actions that we did. And I think about it and I started crying.
Mm,
I started crying because of the waves that we did, we weren't thinking. And it's easy to say, oh, you're a piece of shit for doing that. But at that time, it was a young boy that was just trying to survive with his buddies. At the same time, it was not emotionally regulated. It was not an emotionally regulated place that you could feel safe. And then coming back to a place that is safe, you didn't have your battle buddies. You didn't have the people that knew you from the left and right. You go home, you lay in a bed, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, is somebody going to break into my house? Is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Because you've seen the worst in humanity. You've seen what the fragile American lens does not usually get a chance to see.
yeah. And a
And
hypervigilance stays with you.
and I actually, so in my job, I've actually told people, and I said honestly, hypervigilance became my superpower.
Mm,
I said I feel way more comfortable. So I'm able to process this stuff really quickly. Like living with Iraqis taught me how to actually pay attention to voice inflection, rate of speech, the body language, things that I can be able to have a higher predictability because I didn't understand the language. And if we decide to learn about the tools that we have instead of actually the disabilities that caused us to be paralyzed, like learning the expression of the emotions, almost everything that we learned in war would be heightened and be stronger and we'd be more of a healthier man.
Mm,
Like, think about how honest you were or transparent you were with me the first night you met me. You didn't even know me from Adam to Eve. Or how honest and open you were the whole time. Sharing your love with your dancing, with your singing, with the arts. Dude, you are talented MF. Dude, I told you that before and I'll tell you that again. You're talented with all the music you can play, all the knowledge that you have consumed. You have been really working on your craft. You are a blessing of a person. And not to sound messed up, but I'm glad that you went through that struggle because it made you a stronger human.
yeah,
You are a beautiful soul.
I appreciate you, Will. Thank you. I I've learned to accept that, and people will ask me, like, I'll sit there and do my sound baths with people because, and this is something for the world to understand. I'm not only this guy, well, people are taking medicine and doing these retreats. My biggest influence is like supporting people outside of the medicine space because guess what? Going to combat carrying a saw ain't for everybody. Going to go drink medicine and do these things uncomfortable for 3 days ain't for everybody. But coming for a 90-minute to a 2-hour sound bath or a wellness session to experience something you ain't never experienced because your girlfriend, your wife dragged you down to this, which a lot of the guys are being dragged into this by their girlfriends, and they're like, the guys would be come out and they're like, dude, like what you just did's amazing, and like this and that, and then somewhere around it, I'll explain to them. I was like, would you believe I was a machine gunner running around in Afghanistan? I was like, fuck no. What? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I used to do. I used to be an instrument of chaos, an instrument of war. Now I see myself as an instrument of God because like God has given me so many chances. And I started this journey at 25, 26 years old. I'm 34 now. And I give thanks meeting. I work in a space where there's spirituality, obviously, especially yoga, all this stuff. A lot of people seem like, oh, it's feminine, it's this. You ain't wrong. There's a lot of more females in these spaces, but the men I get to meet on the same way is for me a big healing for myself because to see someone older than me, whether they're in their older 30s, 40s, 50s, I met people in their 60s and 70s who are like, don't stop doing what you're doing, man. And like that shit makes me it confirms that like, hey man, you're not crazy. You don't have to go and get this job and become a doctor and do this and build a house and do this. Like, follow what society is telling you to do. Follow the path that God put you on and do it with so much love. And that is the abundance of doing the work that you're doing. So honestly, bro, I wouldn't believe if you were to tell me 10, 15 years ago, hey, Ham, this is going to be you. I would have spit on the ground and said, that's just for the birds. Like what? Singing, yoga, dancing? Like what are you talking about, man? Get out of here. And then not to say I didn't love dancing back then, but it was coming from a place where like it wasn't healing. And like to do the things now is the path of healing. And so like yes, plant medicine, ayahuasca, 2016 showed me something so beautiful that night. And I always tell everyone the story. I had my little book. I was gonna go in there like, like Aldous Huxley or like Terrence McKenna and come with some journals like Tim Ferriss. Like I'm gonna have some shit here like Ram Dass. Like I'm gonna come up with something. Watch. And I remember that night I started real neat. And by the end of like the third or fourth page, it just got it more hectic and hectic. And let's just say the last page was this big scribble in the pencil, big circle, and in the middle said, music is powerful. And that's the thing I left with my first ceremony is music is powerful. And from then on, the other ceremonies I got to go to experience, I started getting my hands on the drums. I started looking at the other guys, and some guys like, hey, come over here, play this drum. I'm like, I don't know how to play, but like your hands, they want to do something. And I started getting on the drum and looking at them, and I got on the rhythm. That one ceremony allowed me to understand. I was like, there's music inside of us. Everyone has a
Mm.
song. Everyone has something in there, a frequency. And so that guided me to wanting to learn the flute. I started tapping into the flute. In the same time that I'm learning about yoga, and my 9 months of studying, I met this Native American woman named Grandmother Dayani, who lives at this place called Yogaville in Buckingham, Virginia. And that was when I met her. My mentor, who was a 72-year-old Vietnam officer, his name is Robert Buss. He's my mentor. He was an example for me to understand, like, hey, I come out of Vietnam. I've been living a yogic lifestyle, vegetarian for 50 years. But I say this with a lot of love. I still saw that dog in him. At 70
Mm.
something years old, this guy that lives a very yogic lifestyle and this and that, I still saw that dog in him. So it's not to say that he wasn't perfect, but he's still human. And this is a gentleman who never went to the VA. And long story short is I helped him later on go get his like 60 or 70%. You know, he didn't get back
Mm.
pay for 50 years, but he went in and started accepting that there is something here and maybe, I could go get some help. But through him, it allowed me to understand that, like, hey, you know what? Your PTSD triggers are always going to be there. You might look at a pile of trash on the side of the road and think, is there a bomb in there? But then you have to come back and realize, like, no, I'm not in Iraq. I'm not in Afghanistan. There is no danger there. There's nothing immediate here that's trying to kill me. My mind
Mm.
is playing games. And in the yogic world, they call that Maya. Maya is the illusion of the world. The brain can play tricks of Maya, illusions on us. And so we have to reel it in and come back to reframe that, like, I am safe and I'm good. And so that allowed me to understand that, like, this is a long path for warriors. Warriors are going to have a long path, but as long as we start meeting and creating these spaces, we can start healing. So yoga is one way. Learn the manual of self. What can your body physically do? Where can it get more improvement? Do you know how to properly breathe? Do you understand what sympathetic and parasympathetic energies are? Do you comprehend how to bring your brain waves so slow you reach these meditative states? Because when we're in alpha, very alert, but when we start getting to the delta and theta brainwave, this is where we reach REM cycle. This is where the body reaches homeostasis. That's what God wants for us, is reach homeostasis. So through that journey, my mentor on living over there, I learned about the flute. I learned this beautiful song that I got to share with you guys, which is called the Earth Mother song. And that was really the beginning of, through yoga and sound and pranayama, which translation of Sanskrit means life force or breath control. Breath control. Prana meaning life force or breath. Yama means control. So breath control, life force control. What is breath? Breath is life. What is
Mm.
something we learned in the military? I could go days without food, days without sleeping, days without drinking water, but I cannot go an hour without breathing. So the breath is life. So snipers really rung in my head during these times of training of, like, these guys were master yogis of breathing in chaos, right? Slow, steady squeeze, then you hit center mass. Now
Mm.
apply that to your task in life. That is your meditation. So I say that to all veterans, like, oh, I can't fucking meditate. Yeah, you can. If you can hit center mass 600, 800 meters, 1200, 1500 meters down range, make that your task and goal in life. Get back into that routine of breathing,
Mm.
right? As you inhale, hold that breath, observe it, witness it, let it flow, let it go.
Mm.
And that is the mantra of, like, take it day by day, take it step by step, but you have to take it breath by breath, because you're not going to get your next step without that next breath. You're not going to step into the next day without connecting to that breath. And so, through those years from 2017 up to 2019 was the self exploration through plant medicine. A lot of integration. Integration is the most important. I don't want anyone here listening to, like, I'm going to go do these things. Yeah, go do them. But remember, integration is the most important.
Mm.
Integration means, like, what did I just go through? And not only what did I just go through, what did it reflect back to me that I may need to change in my life? Is it my diet? Is it how I'm sleeping? Is it that I need to stop smoking a pack of cigarettes and a can of dip a day? Do I need to still drink 3 or 4 cans of beer every night when I come back from work? Reframing how we're going to approach in our life And nothing makes me happier when we got off that call hearing guys talk about, I'm doing ice baths, I'm reading more educational things, I'm learning to really tap into my meditation, my breath, I'm looking at the sun in the morning, getting my feet on the ground. It may sound woo woo, but I'm telling you, the science behind it is nature itself. Your ancestor, our ancestors, regardless of our race, religion, skin, where we come from, all understood one thing. When that sun peaks over the dawn, and when the sun is coming down on dusk, it does something to your brain. The circadian rhythm is receiving photon light information from the rays of sun, which feeds that reptilian mind, which is telling us it's time to rest and digest, or it's time to wake up and prepare for the day. But always in the sense of like grounding. Our feet, if we were needed shoes, God would have gave us shoes when we came out, right? But like our feet touch the ground, just like all these other animals, we need to be touching the ground. So understanding about earthing, breathing, yoga, these things will start. If you start, no matter where you start, it's like jujitsu. No matter where you start somewhere, it's gonna take you all the way down to finally. The word I want to say is submitting, and I submit myself to the Supreme, to Creator, that you're gonna reach this point in place that like you finally just gonna have to surrender. Like you're gonna have to surrender to the ego, to the walls of self, and put that stuff down and open your heart. So like when you talk about like, yeah, man, you were talking with me with an open heart, it's because like I don't have nothing else to hide. Like what am I gonna hide? What am I trying to prove? There's nothing I need to prove to no one. The only thing
Hmm.
I have to show is my heart, you know? So I'll leave you with this, and we'll keep flowing. And there's a song in Spanish that says, Corazón es todo que tengo. The heart is all that I have. Basically, like the heart is all that I have. It's all I have to give. It's all I have to offer. And I feel like me and you, many of us can share a moment of being in combat where like you may have had a moment of showing your heart to somebody, and they came and gave you some chai and they gave you some bread because they saw you more than just this big scary person with these armor and these Oakley shades on. They saw you as the human that you are, someone that's tired, someone that's thirsty, someone that needs rest.
Beautifully said, man. And there was a few things that I wanted to circle back when you were talking was you're talking about the delta and the theta and being in a REM cycle. One of the areas that we normally don't hit with when we have bad PTSD or we are actually drinking or using cannabis use, over misuse, I should say, when we're trying to sleep and what it's doing is sedating us and we're not getting into that REM cycle. Like the REM area of the brain is actually stripping the emotions from the memories. So when you're doing the yoga or you're doing for me, when I do yoga or when I used to do yoga, it actually made me so present. It made me be so much in the moment.
Mm,
And if I didn't, if I allowed those intrusive thoughts to win, I would land on the floor. I would be in pain, especially with hot yoga. But when I was thinking about the meditation, is when you're in that meditative state, you have all these intrusive thoughts. You're typically, normally, I'll say not you, but typically when we're actually working or doing something, we have everything that's just fighting for our attention. And we're not just breathing, we're not being, we're just existing. We're moving through the hamster wheel. We're trying to be productive, especially in the Western culture. It's all about production. And it could be a whole soapbox with that, but I'm going to stay away from it. But when you're talking about looking at music as life and using your energy, and that makes total sense. When you have a person being able to express themselves, their own rhythm, their own beat. But Hamilton, you're Spanish. You guys were born with rhythm. Shit, you guys have like 18 different dances. I tried my, but besides merengue, I'm okay. And but in all seriousness, though, it's we forget about that. We forget about that childlike mindset. Like I went to a couple powwows over here in
mm,
Montana, and powwows are where it's a Native American and they're using the drum and they use pretty much the drum the same as that beat for most of the dances. And each of the dances, the regala, what they're wearing, is actually matching the dance that they were trying to do and how they're mimicking either the animals and the spirits.
mm-hmm.
And it's so freaking beautiful. And when I'm like watching this, and I'm also thinking about the music. What you're saying is that music is the flow. It's the way that you're able to express yourself. You allow yourself to go more to the infantile stage. Because like I remember watching, they had elementary schools up there, and they were allowing them to dance within the dancer circle. They're allowing these kids to be able to be part of the powwow, and it was beautiful watching these individuals. And most of these kids were Caucasian that were integrating into the Native American culture, and the natives were all from different tribes. And you're celebrating, and it's actually this beautiful, beautiful ceremony to me. But it's kind of lost in a lot of ways. We're
Yeah,
not allowing our emotions to peek through. Again, I go back to the emotions. And when you're talking about the sound baths, you talk about the yoga, that dog in that Vietnam vet, that dog is always going to be there. But the nice thing about knowing that dog's always going to be there, it doesn't mean that it needs to attack.
exactly.
It's just always watching our back.
Yeah.
And we're able to be like that child where that dog protects us.
Hmm. Yeah.
But go ahead.
Like there's gonna come a moment like where like you're saying like and I go back to like music is powerful and I there's a lot of things to touch on about like you saying like hey I'm like you're talented you're this like yeah, but I had to tell that dog, like, hey man, how about you like just chill the fuck out and like you let the inner kid come out and like just be free. Like get up and dance when you feel this music that's in you and like and you want to express yourself in a way where like dance like nobody's watching. So like, ask yourself, when's the last time you went outside and stand in the rain and just like be in the presence of you and God, and like standing in the rain and like frolicking around, dancing like you used to be as a kid, like life is a dance. So may we never forget how to dance, how to smile, how to sing, and like through the teachings of these things, like music I believe like all music is spiritual because they all are coming from a place of creativity, of creation. Like watching the Native American powwows, watching like African tribes, watching how they do Kirtan in India, which is like how the people in the yogic and Hindu traditions, celebrate God. Like you'll see people get up and start getting into the Holy Spirit, like putting their hands up, jumping and dancing and celebrating, like moving, exercising the demons, sweating it out. Find a way to move your body. Find your way to free yourself, even if it's like in your own home. But like the beauty of that creative expression. It's the same thing with like music. Like the way I connect with music is a way for me to express my spirit that wishes to dance. And like some sound baths are really powerful, some are really quiet, some are really intense, and some are like really gentle. And that's the beauty of like you don't know what you're gonna get when we walk into this space. When you become a hollow bone and you allow spirit to come in, like I think of my dad. My dad would be like, yeah, but try to switch it up when you do the thing. I'm like, first of all, Dad, you never even been to my sessions, but like trust me when I tell you it's never the same thing. Like it's always gonna be different. And like feeling the energy of the space of like how one song will go from the next thing, like expressing on the flute, expressing on the didgeridoo, going to the drum, going to the hand pan, like whatever it is, like I like I'll tell you, like I don't know how to read music. Like I don't really know how to read music as a professional, but like playing a hand pan, playing different kinds of flutes, the idea is like letting the creativity of that inner child flow through and I create this space, creating that space with music, with rhythm, with harmony. And finding that place of like not being shy if you fuck up because nothing's perfect. We learn from our mistakes, right? And like I'm still someone in my craft that's continuing to keep expanding and learning, and I'm never gonna sit here and say I'm a master at something because like I don't think there's any true master but the creator itself, because even a master somewhere in this world has failed 10,000 times and they'll keep telling you like I am no like the truest masters in this world of good teachers will tell you I am no master. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, right? And
Hmm.
it's not to say you can't learn from people who are your elders because they are here to really show us how to keep walking a good way and how maybe not to make the same mistakes they did on their journey. And so like
Hmm.
that's a good thing about connecting, like I meet some older gentlemen who talk about their 20-year-old kids, and I'm talking and I learned something about the dance of life. Oh, okay, pay more attention here, be observant of this part, witness this thing, learn how to receive this and learn how like not to take that. And
Hmm.
that this is the dance of life. Like art, the dance of life is an art. And I feel like once we get into the flow of that, things really start opening up on your path, and they start really making more sense, so to speak.
Dude, that's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. I want to say thank you so much for your time, man. And honestly, there's no way else to end it besides saying learn how to flow with it, allow yourself to express it, be a child, fail forward, and live life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well,
Thank you, Hammy. Love you, bud. Thank you.
love you too, man. Thank you for letting me be here, and gratitude, man.